Okay, so obviously I'm doing something really different than I normally do on my channel, and I've got some guests with me, as you can see, and I'll let them all introduce themselves in a minute. Basically, what we're doing today is a bit of a roundtable discussion about authenticity, specifically authenticity as we kind of relate to it as content creators, because we're all tarot content creators. I was going to do this as a video, which is my normal way of doing things, but I already know how I feel about all these questions that we're going to be discussing, and it's nice to make a video and then have comments and things, but sometimes it's nicer to have an actual discussion with people. We all know what the questions are, we all know what we're going to talk about, but none of us have had a discussion about how we're going to answer these questions, so it is going to be a really organic conversation. And we're just going to see how it plays out and see where we go with it. But I'll let all of the ladies introduce themselves, although I'm sure you already know who all of them are anyway. But whoever wants to start.
I'll start.
Okay. Someone start.
I'm Julie, and my channel is Peekaboo Rose. I think I started YouTube, gosh, it'll almost be 2 years. And I basically just chat about whatever I want. You know, tarot, and just I do a lot of VRs because that's my way to engage with the community. So for me, it's really just about connecting, and so that's how I found all these lovely ladies. So, hello.
So I'll go next since I just made sorry.
No,
I just made a really bad face because just as we were starting this, my cat starts doing the cat thing where he was throwing up a little bit. Yeah. Just as we're starting to record, but anyway, so not making faces at Heather or Julie's introductions, just to be clear. But I'm Jen from Jen's Balanced Tarot. I've been on YouTube now for a year and a few months now, I think. And I do the same kind of thing. I talk about my journey. Oh, we lost Jade. But I talk about my journey with tarot and oracle and just kind of this community in general. And I started off as a newbie, so I'm really trying to just kind of share my journey as I go, and anybody who's interested is welcome to come along for the ride.
Cool. All right. Well, I think I'm the last one left. Oh no, Jade's back, but we'll give her a second to get back in.
Sorry, I'm still in the middle of nowhere, and I guess my internet connection is spotty, so I apologize if you can't hear any of this. I may turn my camera off sometimes. I know that helps on Zoom calls and whatnot. But I'm Jade. I have a small channel called Tarot Your Truth, where I, as Julie says, I talk about whatever. I talk about my journey with the tarot that also started about a year ago, and I do walkthroughs and just chat. And I really love the community. That I don't know if anybody is hearing this because
we we're not hearing her now. Okay, quick, Sarah, talk.
Okay. So hi, I'm Sarah. My channel is Sunset Bow Tarot. We're hoping that we get Jade back, but while we're waiting for her. So anyway, I'm super excited to be part of the conversation. I have been on YouTube. I think I started July of 2018. So actually, I might have been on YouTube the longest of anybody on this call, actually. I think I was, because I started a couple months before Heather and before Julie.
Yes,
so,
sounds right.
Yeah, so, which is weird, because I still feel like I have no idea what I'm doing. But
same.
like not a clue. Yeah, I, again, talk mostly about tarot on my channel, but also other stuff as well. You know, just kind of whatever is of interest to me. I do see it as much more of like, it's a lot more about being part of a community for me than being like a content creator, you know? So I just enjoy being part of a discussion with folks. I think that's the fun of it. So anyway, yeah. And we got Jade back, we think. Yeah.
She's actually back.
We're like all Brady Bunch, like looking at her, like
looking at her. I know, like that will help.
Oh wait, my head has to go that way to look like I'm looking.
Jade, are you back? Okay, well we'll just jump in and then she can join in as and when she can. Okay, so the first question that kind of makes sense to me is if you're going to, I have that kind of brain where if you're going to talk about a word, you have to define what the word means. And the word authenticity is a funny word because it means something different to everybody, I think. So that would be my first question is when you talk about authenticity and when you talk about whether somebody's authentic or not, what do you actually mean? What are you referring to? Do you want me to go first? I don't mind going first.
Yeah, go first.
So when I talk about authenticity, and I'm only going to give a really short answer because I think if I go too into detail, it'll answer all the other questions that we've got. But for me, authenticity is about a relationship with ourselves, and it's about how we live in alignment with our core values. So if, for example, fairness is a core value of mine. So if I'm always behaving in a way that's fair, that I believe is fair, I'm being authentic because I'm living in alignment with who I believe I am and what my core values are, is the simplest definition for me.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I was gonna like make a joke and be like Webster's dictionary defines all. I won't do that. But no, I totally agree.
I would have appreciated that.
I would have appreciated it too.
I totally agree. I think that, yeah, it really is about knowing yourself, knowing what you care about, what you believe is right and wrong, and what you, believe is basically a good way of interacting with the world, and just acting in alignment with that at all times. So I'm not one of those people who tends to believe that authenticity is all about like, having to share everything at all times or, anything like that. It's just about living in accordance with what you believe is the right way to live, basically.
See, and I would even take that even another step further. I agree with everything you've said. And then also then what we're projecting outward as well, right? So it's like, yes, we want to be in alignment, but, especially I think as we talk about, and maybe I don't want to jump too far ahead, but when we're talking about content creators and things like that, when I feel like somebody is presenting themselves as who they believe themselves to be in the way that we're describing, rather than trying to be something different or somebody else, that's where authenticity really resonates well with me. Or I guess what I deem to see as being authentic. It's like I feel like there's alignment there between who they are and who they project, because sometimes those things can be different.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, that when I think about authenticity, it's not this singular plane, right? We all have different facets of ourselves. We are complex individuals. And so showing different facets of ourselves doesn't necessarily mean we're inauthentic in one way and authentic in another. It can mutually exist. So just to add on to that.
Well, like, for example, I think a lot of us, maybe all of us, identify as introverts, right? But we put ourselves on YouTube, and so we're having more of an extroverted personality that we're projecting out. That's not inauthentic. It's just another side of us, right?
Yeah.
So it's to kind of piggyback on what Julie was saying.
Yeah.
Exactly. Or even just, the relationship between being a content creator and like you were saying, Jen, how you are in your everyday life. I mean, when I would say that most people who know me, only some people in my real life actually even know I have a YouTube channel. And a lot of people who know me would be very shocked to know that I have a YouTube channel. They would be like flabbergasted if they knew I have a YouTube channel. But it's for me, a way of being part of a community. And in this particular community, it's the way that I like to engage. It is a little uncomfortable for me at times, but it's still my authentic self, that I'm projecting and wanting to be, because if you want to be part of a community, being in, like you want to be your authentic self as part of that community. Otherwise, like, you're getting to know people who don't even know you. So
right, then the connections aren't genuine,
exactly.
And you're connecting on levels that don't make sense. And that's why I'm here. Is I will continue to say that till the day I leave YouTube. It's like the reason that I'm here was to connect with people. The reason I put my face on this screen was because I felt like I was getting to know other people. And I thought, in order for this to be a two-way, whatever kind of relationship you can have with people online, but those have translated to the real world in many cases. But I just thought, if I let them get to know me, then I have more of an opportunity to connect with these people. And that was 1000% my goal.
Jade's just messaged, by the way, to say she's just not going to make it back on.
Aww. We miss you, Jade.
Well, she's at the lake. I mean, she's gonna go have fun. She's fine, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Go for it. Swim or something in the sun. I don't blame you.
We expect a lengthy comment below this video, though.
Yeah. She needs to answer every question in a comment. Cool. Does anybody else have anything that they want to add to that one, or no?
I'm good.
No, so I suppose leading on from that is some of it we've kind of already started to cover there, but authenticity, my perception is, and you might see things differently, is that for one reason or another, it's something that either overtly or covertly comes up on TarotTube, either in people's videos or in comments or in discussions all the time. It's like something that for the tarot community specifically seems to really focus on. And so I'd be interested to know why people think that is. What is it about TarotTube specifically that makes it a topic of conversation that we keep coming back to over and over again?
Well, I think because of the nature of what we discuss on TarotTube, using tarot for spirituality and divination and personal growth and improvement and all the other related topics that go along with that. I think for me, it's like, well, people kind of automatically make that association that if you are discussing these topics about your personal self-growth, your journey, etc., connecting with the divine, then, you would hopefully be authentic, right, in that endeavor. And so, the conversations you're having, the content that you're putting out there is authentic, because these topics kind of are associated with, well, why would you be doing this? Why would you be on the path for self-improvement and self-growth if you are not being genuine in this pursuit, if you are not authentic, right? So I think that's why, as opposed to maybe say, I don't know, the beauty community where they're talking about contouring, that might not, authenticity. I don't know.
Yeah, your personality is helping kind of get people to connect with you, but isn't the topic of discussion.
Right. And it's like, especially for me coming on to TarotTube, I did it because I wanted to connect with other people. And I think I'm certainly not the only one. So people coming on to TarotTube and wanting to connect with people and communicate with people, you're hoping that you are, making connections with genuine, authentic people. So
I think there's I think particularly within something like tarot, like when if you watch other videos, if I watch other YouTube videos, like how-to videos or, silly videos or whatever, booktube videos even, I don't know if there is so much a perception of a relationship there with those content creators as you get with something with like in the tarot community.
Right.
So, and I think because as a content consumer, we feel like because the people are sharing such personal stuff, that we're in a relationship with them.
Right.
And we want to believe that the people we're having a relationship with are the people that we think they are, ultimately, right? So it's all about trust. It's all about that foundation of trust that is the most important thing in any relationship.
And I would say, too, that, because TarotTube in particular, we don't have people in the tarot community that have millions and millions of subscribers the way people in the beauty community do. It's generally speaking a smaller community, and we're all smaller channels. Like in the grand scheme of YouTube, even the biggest tarot channels are actually very small channels. And so there is actually more of a community feel still, I think, where genuinely, like, you start to feel like a lot of the people who watch your channel, and a lot of the people whose channels you watch, like you interact with them, and you actually have, that kind of connection. I do think too, though, that some of it has to do with, not to like get into the negative side of it too quickly, but there, like, this whole area of interest, like kind of new agey stuff, spiritual stuff, tarot, crystals, all that kind of stuff. Like that's like a growing thing in the world right now, right? It's getting more and more and more popular. Like just the other day, I saw the BuzzFeed article that was like 20 steps to reading your own tarot cards. I mean, it's like, it's getting much more mainstream. And as a result of that, I feel like there's also like a strong gatekeeping impulse to be like, oh, there's all these newbies coming in, you know, who don't really know anything. And, you know, we need to like wall off the community from, you know, people who are pretending like they know stuff and don't actually know stuff. And I hate that. Like, I hate
that's giving me like bad feels.
Yeah. I hate that. But I think that does happen, you know, and I think that there's a little bit of that feeling right now just because it's growing so fast.
Well, I was actually a little bit petrified that would be the perception of me coming in, right? Just in the last year and a half. I am new to tarot. I have poured my heart and soul into it to catch up as fast as I will never catch up. I recognize this, but that doesn't stop me from trying. So that was a legitimate fear when I did enter the YouTube sphere. But again, it was like, well, okay, but I have this other desire that kind of outweighs that fear. But another thing to kind of add to what you all were saying, I think another thing that we probably encounter with this spiritual community is that, at least for me, I shouldn't speak for everyone, but at least for me, I felt myself instantly holding everybody to a bit of a higher standard than I would the general public. Right? People who are exploring something like tarot and focusing on their spiritual development, their personal growth, all these things that Julie was saying, then I expect better behavior.
How dare you?
I know. And it's not even necessarily fair. Like, we are all freaking human, and spiritual growth.
What we call drama in the tarot community is like not even remotely the level of drama in any other kind of community. Like, what we call drama in the tarot community is so minor compared to the shit that goes on.
It's all relative.
I cannot even convey. Oh my Lord. Yeah.
It's funny because you kind of hit on something there, Jen, where we want people to be authentic, but then we seem to, like, and I'm saying we as in a very generalized we, but we expect authenticity from people, but then we also expect our tarot content creators to be beyond human. Like, we expect them to be.
Is that what I said?
well, you know, we hold them to an expectation that we don't. Like, I hold people in the tarot community to an expectation that I don't hold my boss at work to. You know, is so when people do something that's just completely human behavior, it feels very different than if your mate who lives up the road does something that's a little bit problematic or a little bit that makes you a little bit uncomfortable. Like, because we're holding them to a higher standard, we're judging them much harder when people can't keep to that standard because they're people.
Yeah, it's not at all rational, I don't think. And I'm a pretty rational person. So I have to kind of talk myself down. It's like, wait a minute, all these people are human. You know, if somebody behaves in a human way, that's still allowed. But a lot of that, I think, has to do with the personal standard that I hold myself to. And I don't know if you guys do this, but it's like, I always hold myself to a much harsher standard than I would other people anyway. But I think for everybody, it just kind of elevates a little. And to be honest, I'm not typically disappointed when I say that either. Like, I think I see a lot of really wonderful people in this community. And I do feel like that higher standard is in some way warranted in most cases. It's just every once in a while, I'm like, oh yeah, we're all human. That's right.
Well, and I think too, it's again, just to go back to that whole idea that what we call drama in the tarot community is like nothing compared to any other online community in existence. You know, I think that there's also, like, as people in this community tend to be pretty sensitive. A lot of people have very strong empathic tendencies. You know, they have they tend to take on energy very easily. And so I think that, like, it becomes very easy for people to kind of like overreact to negativity also, you know, like people tend to react very strongly to even the most minor level of negativity. And so that also, you know, is very, I don't know, it's a way that this community is different from other communities, I think.
I think that's a great point.
Jade, are you back? Can you hear us and see us?
I can hear you. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
But I wanted to go back to what Jen just said, and I'm sorry, I probably missed half of what was discussed. But in terms, I don't think that it is, like, I agree that the tarot community is unique in a whole lot of ways. What I don't think is unique is how viewers will, like, the standard that viewers hold the tarot tubers to. There's another community which is around. I mean, anyone who's watched me knows that I knit and I spin yarn and all that. And so there is a whole knitting community as well. And I've watched a lot of YouTubers in that community go through very similar things where, you know, people there's the drama, right? Or you're drinking. Why are you drinking when, like, why are you sipping? That's disgusting. Why are you talking to us? Or, you know, just a whole bunch of little things. I don't think that it is. I don't think it's totally unique, but I think what people, that because we are, you know, we're broadcasting ourselves, we're broadcasting our lives to some extent, or our passions anyway. You know, we're not.
We'll never know what we're not.
Well, if we're not, and she didn't say we are, that would be first.
Damn. Well, hopefully she'll come back and finish that thought.
No.
But I suppose that's, you know, what she's saying is that that we can kind of get ourselves stuck in a bubble where we think that what's going on in the tarot community is unique, but actually it isn't. It just happens everywhere.
It happens in communities in general. Oh, you left us hanging, Jade.
No, because we're not, and then you just.
Jade, what are we not?
This is real life. This is authentic.
Broadcasting from a sauna with bad internet up at the lake.
Yes, yes. Oh my God. Well, we didn't even have Wi-Fi 2 years ago here, or like we didn't have mobile service 2 years ago. So
Wow.
It's a step up. But yeah, that's what I was saying. It's just, I think people, you know, it can be easy. It can be easy, I think, for people to hold tarot tubers or YouTubers in general to that same professional standard as regular TV, right? Where you have professional videographers and professional, you know, actors and whatnot. And we're not. We're regular people, right? Just
filming on our cell phones most of the time.
On our cell phones with shitty Wi-Fi. Sorry.
You really don't have to apologize for swearing on my channel unless you've never watched my channel.
We've already said shit like multiple times through the course of this
Okay.
Yeah.
So
you can tell when I'm swearing, my mouth is moving. Cool. Okay. So, how do we know? How do we know when somebody else is being inauthentic? Because that's normally when we talk about authenticity, we're generally calling someone out for not being authentic or not being genuine. Are they the same thing? Are authenticity and genuineness even the same thing? And how do we know when somebody isn't being authentic, or how do we know when they're being fake?
Like in real life or on YouTube?
On YouTube, with the people that we consume on YouTube, because like we all have to acknowledge, I suppose, that even if, like, I sit down in front of my phone and I film, and very rarely do I edit, and if I edit, I only edit out the bits where I'm going.
So are you going to edit that out?
No, because no one needs to see that. But even so, what I choose to show to the world is still in some level curated in some way. I don't give you everything. I don't give anybody on YouTube everything. I don't believe any of us do.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're saying that content creators are inauthentic or they're not being genuine, beyond well, that's just how I feel. How do we actually know? Or do we not?
For me, like the way that I look at it is, you know, if you have someone, sorry, and his name is totally escaping me now, but he's a big sustainability and green person, and you know, he's made it his mission in life, or what it seems like his mission in life, to be, you know, to care for the environment and to push, you know, to educate people. And then he leaves a convention and he drives a Hummer, right? Which is totally opposite from the sustainability thing. Like, that to me is not authentic, right? That to me means, okay, you're really just, you know, or maybe you care about it, but not as much as you are actually saying. Like, that to me, I don't believe that just because someone doesn't share every part of their lives on here, they're being inauthentic. I think there's a difference between verbal diarrhea and curating what you're sharing.
Mm-hmm.
That's my opinion.
Yeah. I personally think that it's not just YouTube. Everything you show to anyone in your life is curated. It's all curated. Like, it makes me think of the Katie Flowers used a metaphor of saying it's like the outfit you wear, right? Like, we don't go out in public naked. None of us do. We wear different outfits on different occasions, depending on what's appropriate for the occasion. But none of us are like walking out in public with no clothes on and being like, here I am, you know? So what we present on YouTube, like, yeah, sure. I mean, I might not be able to edit myself in a real conversation the way that I do on YouTube, which is a lot. But you know, it's all curated. You're always making decisions about what you're going to share, what you're not going to share. And I don't think that any of that has anything to do with authenticity at all, honestly.
Yeah, I think it's just, you know, and this is kind of what I think Jade was alluding to. The first phrase that came to mind is, you know, are you walking your talk, really? And, you know, the things that I say that I believe in, are those the things that I am doing in my life and presenting and projecting as well? You know, if I say I care, just like you said about, if I care about the environment and you see me doing non-environmentally friendly things, well, so I think that has a lot to do with it, in what I'll perceive with somebody. You know, if somebody says their intention is to do X, Y, and Z, or they're just on here to build their brand and build a business, and some people are very straightforward, that's still authentic. It's not the same reason I'm here, but that doesn't mean it's not authentic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In my view.
I think sometimes when we, because some people, you know, there are people, like you say, who are here to build a brand and are very honest about that. But I think people still accuse them of being inauthentic because they're quite clearly trying to build a brand. But I think sometimes, like for myself, if I think about when I think that people are inauthentic, sometimes I wonder if it's because authenticity for me is about living in alignment with my values. So if I see somebody who's living in alignment with values that aren't mine, I project my values onto them and then decide that they're being inauthentic because they're not living in a way that I think that they should be. But my values aren't their values. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
So actually, they're not being inauthentic. My perception of them is that they're being inauthentic because they're not living their life in a way, or living their YouTube content in a way that I would share mine.
Well, and it's also about recognizing people are human too, you know? Like, if I say I care about the environment and then somebody catches me like forgetting to throw something in the recycling bin instead of the regular trash, does that make me inauthentic? No, it just makes me human. I fucked up one time, right? Like, I mean, so I feel like we also need to recognize that when you put yourself out on YouTube, I mean, there is a level of scrutiny that comes along with that to some extent. And like, I mean, I don't have a tiny channel. Like, obviously nobody's actually scrutinizing me in real life. But when you look at big YouTubers, people are scrutinizing them in real life. And sometimes people are being held to a standard that isn't like a real life, real person standard. And, you know, one small action in your life, or like one mistake that you make, doesn't necessarily define you as a person or mean that you're lying when you say you believe the things that you believe in. So that, I mean, that's also true, I think.
Yes.
I suppose as well, there are things like if you've been on YouTube for a long time, like if I think about the type of content that I made and the type of views that I had 2 years ago when I first started, and the type of views and things that I'm sharing now, or even, you know, opinions that I held a month ago, which maybe I don't hold the same opinions now. I think sometimes there is a tendency to judge people as inauthentic because they're not necessarily consistent. But people aren't consistent. We change and we grow all the time. The only thing consistent about me is my inconsistency. I'm constantly contradicting myself all the time. And I reserve the right to contradict myself at every available opportunity because I'm human, and how I feel about something on one day is going to be completely different to how I feel about it the next day based on the mood that I'm in. But I suppose it's like that which Sarah was saying, it's like we forget when people are putting themselves out there on YouTube that they are actually people, and people are messy and complicated and contradictory and all over the place.
Yeah. I think it's very easy to turn something on your screen, i.e. a person, into a two-dimensional figure instead of the multi-dimensional figures and people that we are and that other people are. And it can be very easy to just kind of boil them down to a few key words or phrases or whatever it might be, and be missing the greater context. Or, yeah, if you look at somebody from 4 years ago, are they even the same person today? I am not the same person I was even 2 years ago, even last year. Like, I'm a constant evolution, to your point, Heather. And I don't think you can, I know a lot of people will dig into the past and, bring out all that old stuff. And we're not the same people we were back then. And sometimes we grow for the better and sometimes we don't. But you kind of, I think, have to roll with who people are today if you're engaging with them today.
And especially in this community, it's, Tarot too, where we're talking about our own personal growth. And a lot of us are talking about our own journey with tarot, with, spirituality and whatnot. I mean, I don't know if I see someone, talking about their journey, I would expect growth. I would expect, someone to evolve in different ways. Otherwise, I don't know, is that a journey? I don't know, maybe. But I mean, if you're exploring different facets and different ideas and different ways of doing things and figuring things out and sharing that, I mean, I would expect that there would, definitely be
it's life, and life is messy. Right?
Exactly. Things that we learn about ourselves.
We're all learning as we go, and if everyone liked the same things, or if everyone's path was the exact same, I think it would be a pretty boring world. I think
a lot of sometimes, not a lot of people, some people do want content creators to stay the same. They like what they like, and if you try something new, if you veer away from something new,
if you change your background,
I don't know, you change
get a haircut.
Yeah, I mean, then it's like shockwaves, and what's going on with you, and is this really your authentic self? Like, why are you making these choices? Are you like now selling out? Are you trying to, it's just some of these conversations that I see and some of these snarky comments that I see, it's like, really just over that change, or someone deciding to do tarot a different way and try something else out, really? So it's very interesting.
I think it's true, yeah. I'm sorry. But yeah, that expectation that content creators are providing you with something, and whatever that thing is that they are providing you that you enjoy, if you expect them to continue to do that, whether or not they want to, and at the same time, there's this like, oh, but if you're only doing what people want you to do, then you're selling out. It's like a total catch-22, right? Like, if I'm doing stuff because people like it and it gets more views, that's bad. But if I'm changing and doing something different, that's also bad. Right. So
You have to be.
You're never going to be able to please everybody ever.
You need to be authentic, but you need to be authentic in a way that other people want you to be.
Exactly.
I'm going to leave here and be like, I'm never filming another video.
Content creating is hard. Why does anybody do it?
My Libra brain just went, what?
So do we think it's possible to be a YouTube content creator and be completely authentic?
Oh, I hope so. I mean, if it's what you know, if it's how we've defined it here, now if we go back and say, does that mean I have to bare my soul to perfect strangers on the interwebs for anybody on earth to find? No, I don't feel like I need to do that. But if I stay in alignment with my values and I do my very best to walk my talk, and I will probably stumble and make mistakes and people will catch me and call me out for it. And I expect that to some degree. But yeah, I think it's absolutely possible.
Yeah, I can only speak for myself, but I would like to think that what I put out there is authentic. You know, yes, I do edit. That doesn't mean I'm inauthentic. It means that my genuine, feelings of courtesy towards my viewers is that I don't want you to see my cat's butthole flashing across the screen. Or maybe I've said too many swear words, and that's I feel that's disrespectful. And so, you know, so like, I feel like, well, you know, as long as I, again, as you know, to what Jen is saying, I'm acting in a way and putting myself out there in a way that I can sleep at night and I'm all right, you know, then to me that I feel like I am being authentic. And if I, you know, continue to be transparent, you know, in the things that I share. And that doesn't mean that I have to share everything. You know, I think that boundaries are a great thing and keeping things private are a great thing. And especially in this day and age with social media, where there are so many influencers out there who just broadcast it all, you know, to the point where their followers and subs expect and feel entitled to that. You know, so it's that instant gratification and I'm entitled to know everything about your life. Well, no, you're fucking not. See, I would have edited that out maybe because I feel like that's disrespectful.
Yeah, I don't edit for me. I edit for other people.
Well, I will say I edit for myself a little bit, but that's because I am a person with tremendous social anxiety. If I do something that is embarrassing and I know that it will keep me up at night, like 5 years from now, thinking about it, even though nobody else remembers it, I will edit that thing out because I need it to be okay.
Right.
But,
you can do that for yourself, Sarah. I validate you.
Yeah. You know, if I said something completely stupid, I'm going to cut that right out and say something smarter. Like that's, you know, that's how I'm going to do it. Because, you know, again, it's YouTube. And I don't need to subject other people. And I also don't need to subject myself and my deep insecurity. So.
Right. And like what Heather was saying before was like half the time I'm like, just like, you know, for like 2 minutes thinking maybe of something, you know, and who wants to watch that? I'm sure if I left that in, I would get hate comments and people being like, edit your shit.
Yeah.
Which I would edit that probably maybe.
Yeah.
I think you should leave it in. Very much leave it in.
Edit it out. I'm not.
I edit out a lot of me yelling at my kid to stop screaming
Thank you
on
for that.
Fortnite. Right? Because he's, you know, you can hear him clear across the house. Just, you know, he's playing Fortnite online with his friends, and he is not physically capable of keeping his voice down. So I'm just like,
yeah,
nobody needs to hear that.
There's mine is just screaming cats and me being like, stop screaming.
Right.
And I'm screaming more and me saying, stop screaming. Like, that happens. I edit a lot of that out.
But I also think that there's
nothing, almost always that.
Yeah. I also think that there's absolutely nothing wrong with editing, you know, as you're talking, you realize, you know what, this is not how I want to express this thought. I want to change how I'm saying it. And that's the beauty of video, right? Because you can do that. So if you can express something in a better way, then I think that's a good thing. I don't think that that's being inauthentic. It's
clarifying.
You know, it's clarifying. I mean, if you're writing something, that's what you would do, right? You would erase and rewrite it. Editing.
Exactly.
So
We're still creating content, and part of the process of creation is editing and curating. So,
yeah.
But do you think that, I suppose what I'm asking really is, do you think it's possible to be successful? If we're defining successful as, you know, influencer level, where you've got lots of subscribers, lots of viewers, lots of engagement, do you think it's possible to ever be a successful YouTuber and remain authentic? Because I don't think, and I say this with the utmost respect, but I don't think any of us are ever going to be successful in those terms, any of us five, because we are sit down, shoot the shit kind of people. That's just how we function, all five of us, I think. And we're all just like, this is who I am, and you can kind of take it or leave it. And if you're lucky, Julie might edit out the word shit occasionally. But do you think it's possible to
if you look,
go on, Jade.
yeah, I think if you look at, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. I keep getting feedback. I think that if you look at someone like Ethany Dawn, who I think we can probably all agree that she has been, you know, very successful. I do think that she doesn't make any bones about, you know, she swears and she says, if you don't like it, you know, there are other avenues out there. I think she is fairly, at least to me, from what I've seen of all her stuff, she seems to be someone who is very authentic and has based her business on something that she's very passionate about. And if you like it, you like it. If you don't, then that's okay. There's lots of other people that you can go watch.
See, I feel like that way, and again, I don't know who likes whose channels or whatnot, but, you know, watching Kellyanne Maddox, for example, she's, I think, in the terms of Tarot Tube and Witchy Tube and all that, she is highly successful. She is one of the most authentic seeming people to me when she presents her content, and she edits the heck out of her stuff. And I think she's just clarifying what it is she's doing, but she'll talk about all manners. She'll put her opinions out there, whether or not she thinks people are going to agree with them. She just feels passionate about those things and shares and talks about those things. And that passion is oftentimes, to me, an indicator of authenticity as well.
Yeah, I think that if just kind of piggybacking on that, and I can only speak for myself, but you know, if I'm watching a content creator, whether that be tarot or, you know, booktube or fitness or, you know, whatever, I think that authenticity, the way I view authenticity, is that, yeah, that person is passionate about their topic. And I think when a content creator begins to get maybe more caught up in other aspects of YouTube, whether that be monetizing or trying to, you know, get more subs, and that's all great and good. There's no judgment or shade from me on that. You know, I mean, that's great. But then if that kind of, you can tell the passion and the genuine love for the topic that they started with, like, and this is just my feeling, right? This is just my perception of the content that creator is putting out. But I kind of see this kind of waning passion, right? And this waning authenticity, I don't know, but it's just this passion and this, what feels to me, genuine engagement of the topic, you know, of what they're discussing, and sacrificing that for, yes, more subs or, you know, whatever, to grow their channel,
more clicks, more whatever. Yeah.
So, and that's when, you know, by natural default, that's when I'm like, oh, okay, this channel isn't what it was. This person, you know, I don't know that I would use the word like fake or inauthentic, but certainly, yeah, their motives lie elsewhere, and that's fine. And that no longer is engaging to me. That's no longer interesting to me. And so then I make my departure.
Yeah.
And I don't announce my departure. I just make it.
Yeah, we don't need to flounce out, right? People are like, you are not doing what I want, so I'm out of here. It's like,
this is not an airport. There is no announcement departure. Yeah.
Just leave.
you know, just engage elsewhere. It's fine.
There is, I guess, like one example for me, as just to piggyback on Julie, what Julie said was one example for me of where I would think someone is not being authentic is, sometimes content creators get sent a tarot deck or an oracle deck to review. And, it's all, they're showing it and it's all wonderful and great, but they don't disclose maybe that it was donated to them. Because I know for me, like I always I want to hear people's genuine opinions. And if someone was given something for free, then I'm still going to watch it, but I might not give it as much weight as someone who purchased that deck with their own money. Maybe, maybe it's just me, but that's just me. I think that if someone gets something for free, then they should at least disclose it so that people can make up their own mind.
I absolutely agree with that. Like that's one of those things where, obviously if you are doing a review of something that you were given for free, or if you're being paid to discuss something, I think it's absolutely clear that, you need to make sure that people know that there's that incentive for you to be, making those statements. But but the other thing too, though, I think is that authenticity, I think it really depends on what you're looking for. Like for me, there's a place for a video that's just funny and well edited and entertaining. And it's probably not where I would go to get some like deep thought or something really incisive to sort of sink my own teeth into from an intellectual standpoint. But I can sit and like watch it and be like, that was fun to watch, and so it's that question of, what are you looking for out of YouTube? What are you looking for out of videos? I mean, the thing that I think is funny is that we start saying, okay, well, authentic, like if people start to change their channel because they're looking for more clicks, and sometimes they're becoming less authentic, but then other people are obviously responding to that, right? Like they're interested in it because the whole point is that they're getting more viewership. So it's just different people are looking for different things. And there are some times when I'm looking for just something fun to watch. And then there are times when I'm looking for something really deep and meaningful and interesting. And both of those things can coexist.
Yeah. And I think we have to be careful about not placing our expectations onto the content creators, right? It's like, okay, if this is what I want, I go over here for that. And if this is what I want, I go over here for that. That doesn't mean, and I think everybody here has been really great about not judging the different types of content that you may or may not resonate with. But I think that's a great point. There's something for everybody, here on YouTube.
It's free.
It's
all getting this content for free.
Yeah. Well, I think sometimes that's the thing, because you can see it. You have people who are adamant. Like, I haven't got any specific examples in mind. I'm not thinking of specific people, but just in general, you have people who are adamant that Joe Blogs isn't authentic and they're fake, and those are the words they use. They're fake, they're not authentic, they're not genuine, they're putting it on. And then you have other people who think that they're great and that that's what they're like and they're genuine. Mm-hmm. And I think ultimately whether somebody is authentic or not is a judgment call that every single individual is making for themselves. And you cannot know what that person is or isn't like off screen unless you live with them.
Right. But even still, I don't think you should ever speak for someone else. I think we have to be very, very careful about speaking on behalf of others' intentions, motivations, likes, dislikes. You can't possibly know that. Even if you think they've told you, you can't possibly know that. And again, even if they told you that, at one point, everybody reserves the right to change their mind. And tomorrow, we all may like different things, So I think it's, I don't know how I was going to end that thought. So somebody else jump in.
Oh, I agree.
Have a drink my tea.
Yeah.
I think, Heather, you chose a group of people who are not the sorry, and I mean this in the best possible way. Don't want to sound like an idiot, like a jerk. But I think you've chosen a group of people here that are just shoot the shit. This is what I am. We're not. I haven't seen. I mean, I've watched all of your channels, and I haven't seen one video where I'm like, I don't know what this person is talking about, or I don't really believe that they like the thing that they like, or that they're passionate about the thing that they're passionate about. But I totally agree with Jen. I think everyone goes to YouTube for something different, just like everyone goes to Netflix or TV for something different.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and I really don't care what anybody else wants to watch, you know? I mean, so it's, you know, yeah, if you want to watch that thing I don't like, more power to you.
Yeah.
Not taking any time away from me.
Right.
So, you know, I don't need to have an opinion, and I don't need to say to somebody, oh, that person's fake, don't watch them. Why do I care?
Right.
Right.
I don't care.
Yeah, people
You know?
just sometimes don't know how to stay in their own lanes. Yeah, it's like if it's not hurting you, you know, then what is it to you?
Mhm.
You know, there's just this feeling of, I guess, again, entitlement and having to put your say out there. And, you know, it's like, where does that come from? Maybe you want to take out that tarot deck and unpack that.
Yeah.
Now, I do think there's something to be said. You know, we've had, I think, a lot of, so this might be really controversial. You might want to shoot me for bringing this up. But there have been some conversations lately about bringing the attention to potentially problematic things, right? You know, especially when we're talking about things like racism and these harder topics, right? And so I want to be careful not to say that I don't think these things should be talked about. I don't think we should, because I think awareness does need to be raised. And there's a fine line between judging what other people want to consume as content versus saying, this is just not right. Like, this is morally and ethically and human rights wise not right. And I am going to judge somebody, I'm sorry, I'm going to just be right, who wants to go and consume white supremacist content. I have a lot of feelings about that. Of course. You know? So I just wanted to put that kind of caveat around it.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Yes. Well, and I think too, I don't know, I always think about who was it? I can't remember if it was maybe Ijiomo Olo who said, you know, if you are like, that's where you should welcome the feedback. Like, if you are genuinely somebody who wants to do better, then somebody telling you that you're not doing something right is a gift. They're giving you the gift of that knowledge. And you should say, thanks for telling me. Like, that's how you respond to that.
Yes. And oh my goodness, I want to fix it and I want to do it right. You know, it's such an opportunity. It is such an opportunity to do better and be better.
Right. And you can tell from comments, or I mean, or maybe you can't. I mean, I feel like when there's a difference between getting that kind of honest and constructive criticism versus someone just spewing hate and, you know, and being a troll and being unfair in the judgment. So, you know, there is constructive criticism. Absolutely. And for sure, I want to better myself. I want to better my channel and I want to grow. If you're just going to be a jerkhead face, that's different. That's a different story. That's not constructive at all.
There's a big difference between being like, yeah, you said something that was like actually really offensive versus you are not creating the exact content that I want. And I'm going to tell you that. Like, there's a big difference.
Also a difference, isn't there, between saying this person did this thing which is problematic and this person's a dickhead.
Yeah.
Those are completely different conversations.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, sometimes both apply. But
you can acknowledge that somebody has done something problematic without dragging them through the dirt for everybody.
And again, and not speaking to their intentions behind that problematic thing, because it very well could have been a mistake. And I've seen situations where somebody put something out that did harm another person in whatever way, and then people will jump on a bandwagon to say, well, they meant to do this and they intended to do that. And sometimes it's just a mistake. And so I think we have to be really careful. It's still okay to say, hey, this hurts me when I saw this, or I see this as being potentially hurtful for this reason, but then not saying and speaking to why that person did that and assuming that you know, because you just can't.
Right.
I mean,
And opening the door to diplomatic conversation. I mean, I don't know how many Facebook like threads I have seen of very vitriol, like just, I mean, it just goes down this rabbit hole of really vicious and cruel responses, you know, towards something where in the beginning, the original post, you know, it was completely fine and meant to spark, you know, good dialogue, you know, really thoughtful dialogue where you can have a conversation. You could maybe agree to disagree, but a lot of times you just see it go down to this really ugly place.
Yeah.
And
we have to blame other people for our reactions to things. And again, you know, our perceptions of things, that's not always about the other person. You know, you know, they call it like poking your shadow for a reason. Right?
But
Well,
I think it makes it very difficult to be, you might not agree with me, but I think it's something that can make it very difficult to be authentic as a content creator, because there is that moment, I don't know about you guys, but there is that moment where you think, I want to have a conversation about X, but I'm worried that, and it could be anything. I might want to talk about, you know, where I take my dog to be groomed or whatever, but you know, but there's that feeling of what if somebody takes it the wrong way, and before I even have a chance to correct myself or apologize or acknowledge that I said something stupid, suddenly 50 million people, as if and that many people are ever going to watch anything that I do, you know what I mean?
Oh, dream big, Heather, dream big.
yeah.
You know, have written you off as this awful, horrendous person, and it can make it really difficult to put yourself out there and be genuinely authentic all the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think somebody said, was it Katie Flowers in her video that said something to that effect where, you know, some content creators, they choose not to delve into those topics for that very reason, you know, that because they're afraid their head's already going to be on the guillotine, you know, in 2 seconds. And it's like, who wants to subject themselves to that? I know I certainly don't. And so,
and then they actually get lambasted for not using their
right.
privilege of their channel.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
It's
you
a
know?
catch-22.
Right. So again, you can only go back to, okay, am I acting in a way that I can sleep at night? Am I acting a way that, you know, that is true to my values, no matter what anybody else says? And people will say nasty things, but if I can sleep at night, then it's all good.
I think we need to, the thing to be careful about, like, you know, because I just to go back to some stuff that was being talked about earlier, like, you know, talking about intention or judging a person to be like a bad person because of something they did, things like that. You know, I think it's important to recognize, obviously, that, you know, intention doesn't obviate impact, right? Like impact occurs no matter what your intentions were. If you do something that is hurtful, that impact will take place regardless of whether you meant to or not. That said, as well, though, it also, like, if intention isn't relevant, then we also need to not be just ascribing bad intent to people and assuming that bad intent was also present.
Right.
So, you know, so as long as we can acknowledge that if somebody does something that is hurtful, that impact took place, let's both not try to excuse that person based on good intent, or like write that person off forever based on an assumption of bad intent, because we don't know what's inside people's minds, right?
Exactly.
That said, if somebody gets told, like, I think the point that you start describing intent is if you do something and somebody tells you it's hurtful and then you keep doing it, that's when you can say, okay, yeah, the intent is actually bad there.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you fuck up once, like, there, you know, and genuinely try to make amends for that, correct the impact, and make sure that you know, move forward in a way that you're not doing that hurtful thing anymore, then yeah, I think at that point we can say intent was good. This person is not, you know, forever to be shunned as a pariah in the community, and so on and so forth. So anyway, my 2 cents.
Yeah, I agree.
Fully
I
agree.
do agree. Have we ran through all your questions?
I think, well, a couple of the questions I think were we've kind of already answered. So there was we kind of talked about how authenticity doesn't mean like giving all of yourselves and all that kind of stuff. The other question I had actually was, how do you remain authentic while setting and keeping good boundaries as a content creator? Like, how do you I mean, we all agree that being authentic doesn't mean sharing everything of yourself, but I think to be authentic and to come across as authentic, you have to share some of yourself. If you're not sharing any of yourself, then the argument there is you're not being authentic either. But how do you put those good boundaries in place and still remain authentic?
I don't actually have that's something that I feel like in every video I'm negotiating over again, because I still don't know precisely where I draw that line. I've never gotten to the point where I felt like, oh, I'm too close to the line. But as a result of that, I don't actually know where that line is. So I'm excited to hear what the rest of you have to say.
Well, I don't know either. That's why I asked the question.
Well, it's interesting because I'm trying to kind of think about it in the terms that you just described, because I think you can be authentic and not share a single personal detail about yourself. Are people going to connect with you if you do it that way? Maybe, maybe not, right? You know, it's like if I just came and did how-to videos on how to do X, Y, and Z, I can do that, and I can be authentic in that presentation and not have divulged a single thing about my personal life. You know, I choose sometimes to give people personal details about my life because, again, I'm here to connect with people, and I think that's an important part of that connection. But if I'm just here to present and have you watch and not necessarily be looking for that connection, I think I can still be authentic and have boundaries that are way far down the road. You know, I think it just kind of depends on what you're trying to do and the conversations you're trying to have.
I agree. I think it's all related to what is your reason for the channel. And if your reason for the channel because it is a lot of work, I don't know about you guys, but it's not insignificant, right? So what is your reason? Is your reason just to grow a community, to get to know people who share your passions? That's one thing. If your reason is to hopefully make a living off your channel, then that's a whole different thing, and probably how you approach your videos and what you do is going to be different. So I think the reason why you choose to be a content creator in the first place has a lot to do with that.
I think it also can be a little bit, so you talk about boundaries, and we talked way back at the beginning of this conversation about how when we engage with people, either as a viewer or as a content creator, we develop these perceived relationships that may not actually even be two-sided. You know, and so it's like I watch somebody and I feel like they are my best friend. They are speaking directly to me every time, right? And I reach out and they comment on their videos and I comment on their videos and they never comment back, right? Does that mean they're being inauthentic? You know, but me as a person who has this perception of this relationship might be like, well, they're not at all who they said they would, or otherwise they'd be engaging with me. And so I think we have to be careful about those perceptions and, again, expectations. And a lot of us are able to engage in many different forms of social media: Facebook, Instagram. We DM each other, we Facebook message each other, you know, and sometimes you reach out and you try to connect with somebody and it's a hit. You know, you're like, yep, we connected, we're able to continue to communicate. And sometimes it just isn't. And I think we have to remember that's just like the real world. If you walked into a room full of people, you're going to be more comfortable connecting with some people than other people. And if that connection doesn't quite work, that doesn't make either one of you inauthentic. It's just kind of a different kind of connection, if you will. And I think some people they set an expectation for the level of engagement they're going to have with you. And if that's not reciprocated, there can be some resentment. I've seen that happen.
Oh, yeah.
Not necessarily me personally, but I've seen that happen.
I agree. I mean, especially with the bigger channels, you know, when you start off small, you're able to comment on every, or reply to every single comment. And as you get bigger, that becomes harder. And I think that people forget that, again, we're human. You know, we have to juggle, you know, real life of like work and family and friends and fur babies. And then on top of that, actually making the content, which may I remind you is free. So, and then you're expecting us to, you know what I mean? So it's like, okay, love and light maybe cut us a little slack. Now, I haven't had that problem yet, you know, but I'd imagine any content creator that grows, they're going to have to start making, you know, that type of sacrifice for just sanity reasons. You know, sometimes like if you're going to be especially a popular content creator where you're getting a crap ton of comments, it would be so hard, you know, but that doesn't mean the content creator isn't reading those comments. They just can't reply to every single one. And also sometimes it's hard, you know, because you don't want to reply the same thing. Like, thanks for watching. Because then that makes
I get so self-conscious about that.
You know,
yeah, me too.
You want to be like it's almost like you want to give everyone a unique response that's just for them. Like, at least that's my inclination. And it's hard. It's you know, it's so hard to, because that's my response for everybody. It's like, thank you for being here. And that's authentic. That's my
right. You genuinely mean it. You're like, oh my gosh,
thank you so much for being here. Thank you. I really appreciate you watching. I really appreciate you stopping by. But when you see 20 comments like that, people think that's inauthentic, you know. But then to write a full-fledged response to every single person, like, I don't know. Yeah. To what Jen said, expectations are, there needs to be a balance there. There needs to be.
Yeah. And even around the timing of responding. Yeah. I was listening to one person who said, hey, if you don't respond within 24 hours, like, I'm out. Like, okay, but what if the person, like weekend or you're on vacation,
that feels a little unfair.
Yeah,
just a little bit.
Because you actually, too, you don't even know when that person really filmed that content versus when they uploaded it. Like, if I filmed it on the weekend when I have time and it uploads on Wednesday, I'm working during the week, I might be more likely to respond on the weekend, you know, and that's going to be a good 48 hours, you know, and so it's, not everything's in real time or in the time that you watch it. I tend to very typically run a good 2 weeks behind when everybody's uploading content. And so if somebody doesn't respond to me because they responded to kind of the first batch of viewers, I don't take offense. I'm like, hey, I missed my window. That's my fault. You know?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
I suppose the reason that I asked this question is because one of the things that I've seen is quite often when people make like a really vulnerable content where they really put themselves out there, one of the responses they often get is about how authentic they are, how authentic that was. So there is, whether, you know, and we kind of sitting here now not really thinking that, but there is obviously some connection between how vulnerable somebody allows themselves to be and how authentic we then perceive them to be. So how, like, sometimes I sit there and I think, exactly how vulnerable do you want me to be? Yeah, and also, it kind of also undermines the fact, I think, and I don't know if that's the right word, and I'm going to get hate mail now, but it kind of undermines the fact that no matter what kind of content you put out there, the fact that you sit down and film something and then upload it onto a public platform is possibly the most vulnerable anybody could be ever. Absolutely. Regardless of what they're talking about.
I can't tell you how many times I've almost deleted my channel or deleted my first videos. And now, like, I go back and I watched one and I like, nope. It is very vulnerable just being on here in the first place.
Yeah. Absolutely. And, you know, even on the other side of that, Heather, I have, you know, I'm just speaking from my own experience with the one video, I almost didn't upload it because I kind of broke down at the end of it. And I thought, this is too vulnerable. And I was almost afraid people were going to think it was performative. It was my, like, speaking out to Black Lives Matter. And I almost didn't upload that because I was like, I kind of broke down at the end and I was like, oh, people are going to think I'm like just this bullshitting, you know, like this is going to look not great, even though I felt I was definitely being authentic. It's like, I really wrestled, like, do I put this up? Like, I, you know, I don't want to be seen as performative at the same time. Like, but I also felt very vulnerable, like too vulnerable, because I don't like crying in front of people. And I certainly don't like crying in front of like all of YouTube. So what do I do? You know?
I
it's
think
just that balance.
Yeah, it's really important. Like, to me, I think that it's a misapprehension to say that somebody is being more authentic just because they're showing a great deal of emotion.
Right.
And I think that what it's appropriate to do is to like respect the degree of emotional labor that goes into making a video like that, because that, like, it is a lot of emotional labor to actually share something that is that deeply personal. But it doesn't make you more authentic than another person.
Exactly.
It means that you are wanting to share something because that deep emotion that you feel is important for you to share for a variety of reasons. But it's not necessarily like more authentic or less authentic or performative or not. It's just something that you chose to share. But again, you know, when it is something really emotional for somebody, like, that is emotional labor that I respect a great deal for them to put themselves into that to that degree. So
yeah, and I would say I experience different levels of comfort or sometimes even discomfort, you know, if I'm being super duper honest, you know, when people really put themselves out there. But I think, again, we have to really check ourselves in questioning, why is that person doing that? Judging it for whatever you think it might be or might not be, you know, is it you know, if you're going to engage, then you need to engage in, I think, kind of an open mind. I guess you don't have to, but I choose to try and engage in as an open-minded way as possible. And if something isn't resonating with me, it's just not resonating with me. Again, it doesn't mean that they're being inauthentic. I don't think vulnerability and authenticity have to go hand in hand.
Right. Oh, yeah.
great.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, for me moving forward, I guess I just continue to monitor. I mean, and this hasn't, aside from that one video, this hasn't happened yet, but if I get to a point where I've filmed a video and I feel like I'm uncomfortable with what I've filmed and I don't feel comfortable putting it out there, I'm not going to put it out there. And that's going to be kind of my meter for a boundary. That doesn't make me inauthentic and fake. It just makes, you know, it's my channel and I can do whatever the fuck I want. And if I don't want to put that out there, you know, again, from my level of comfort and from my privacy, from my boundaries, then that's my choice. And that doesn't make it inauthentic.
I would even go one step further than that and say, you know, if I choose to put something out there and at any point, once it's out there, I decide, actually, I'm not comfortable with this, it's my right to take it down again.
Yeah, absolutely.
And people can think that I'm being inauthentic or I'm hiding something, but at the end of the day, it's my life and it's my shit, and I get to decide who has access to it.
Yeah. And that's the boundaries, right?
Right, boundaries.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think sometimes you have to, sorry. I think sometimes you have to, as you're filming through the video, at least this is how my brain works. You know, you're filming the video and you're that's kind of how you work out what your true feelings are about it, right? So, or your true feelings or what you truly believe, I guess. And so you get to the end of it and you think, okay, well, that's just a bunch of me blathering on about something. It's good because at the end I came to this resolution of how I feel about something, but it doesn't need to be something that other people need to know about right now.
Right.
I'm sorry. I made a face then. I'm aware I made a face then, but I only made a face there because when you said about blathering on about something, I giggled in my brain because I was like, that's every video I've ever made in my entire life.
No, that's not true.
You never come across as blathering, Heather.
No.
You say it all the time.
I know.
And my perception
but then
is
it's
different.
like this very cerebral and intellectual conversation of like, bullshit.
There's no
It was like rambling.
come out fully formed, like they just do. I don't know how you do it, but they come out fully formed.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I wouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get to the end of what I was saying and I'm like, I've got no idea. I have no idea what I've just said for the last 10 minutes. I'm sure
That's
it makes
me every time.
At least you can watch it back.
Exactly. I
Oh,
never.
that's what I said. Yeah, that was real smart.
Yeah.
So that is it, actually. That was my last question, I think.
Oh.
Unless anybody else has anything they want to ask or cover or talk about, or
Just that this was great, Heather. I'm glad that you decided to host this type of kind of roundtable discussion. I would totally do this again. This is a lot of fun.
I love it.
Thank you.
Also, and I love all you ladies. And I think that, at least for myself, as long as I can keep having fun doing this, I'll keep doing this. When it stops becoming fun is when I peace out.
Yeah.
So that's my authentic kind of like
Exactly.
I hear ya.
Yeah.
Cheers to that.
Cheers.
Totally. Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Well, thank you so much, all of you. It was a really interesting discussion. I would say we didn't have any too many like widely differing viewpoints, but I think we did a nice coverage. So thank you. I always learn a lot from all of you, and I appreciated this opportunity to do it more directly. So thank you very much.
Yeah. Same. This was
Yeah,
awesome.
it's been good. I'm really grateful that you all joined in with me, actually. I really prefer doing it this way to making a video and then hoping people made VRs and stuff. This was
a lot of fun. Yeah.
We definitely should arrange to do this about another topic again at some point. So much.
I'm so sorry I had such bad Wi-Fi connection.
So you made it for the majority of the
you
conversation.
did.
It was only the beginning that was a bit spotty.
Yeah.
We'll schedule that for when you're not at the lake. Yeah.
Yes. I go home tomorrow, so I'm a little sad about that, to be honest with you. But
Get it. Yeah.
I'll be anyway. Thank you so much, ladies. This was wonderful. I really enjoyed the conversation and the opportunity to have this chat with you all.
It's super fun. Thanks.
Thanks, everybody. And what I will do is list all of the channel links in the comments below. No, not the comments. No. I do that all the time. The description box. I do that all the time, but normally I edit it out. I might edit this one out as well.
Yeah, why not?
But I'll leave all your channel links in the description box below. So if anybody who is watching this isn't already subscribed to any of you four, they definitely should go and do that, because the kind of content and intelligent conversation we've had here is the kind of intelligent conversation that you'll find on their channel. So definitely go and look those up. And thank you very much. Hopefully we will do this all again very, very soon.
Sounds awesome.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.